My name is Natalie Foster. I'm 32 years old, born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona, where I run a small marketing agency. Last week, my dad called me, his voice warm and full of pride. "Come early," he said. "We'll celebrate you." My heart skipped a beat. They were hosting a dinner at a luxury resort to honor my promotion to director. I slipped into my best dress, whispering to myself, maybe they finally see me. When I stepped into the glittering ballroom, alive with chatter and clinking glasses, a waiter handed me a name tag. I glanced down, and my stomach dropped. It read, "Limited guest." My sister leaned close and hissed, "That means no food, just drinks." My mom burst out laughing as if it were the funniest joke in the world. My brother smirked, swirling his wine with deliberate ease. I froze, the room spinning around me. They had invited me to celebrate, yet marked me as a second-class guest at my own party. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. Instead, I pulled out my phone, hand steady, and typed, "Cancel everything immediately." 30 minutes later, their phones lit up with a flood of notifications. Their faces turned pale. My mom's laughter died in her throat. And in that moment, they wished those words had never been spoken. Growing up in Phoenix, I believed family meant sacrifice. For years, I shouldered their needs, convinced it would earn me respect. The marketing agency I built from scratch, through sleepless nights and relentless hustle, became their crutch. My dad, James, my mom, Carol, and my brother, Derek, they treated my success as their personal fund, not my achievement. It began innocently enough. Derek lost his job again, his voice trembling over the phone. "Just need a little help with rent," he said. I wired $3,000 to save his Tempe apartment. Then came Mom's knee surgery and the medical bills that followed. "You're doing so well," she cooed, her smile just a little too rehearsed. Another $5,000 gone. Dad was bolder. Business ventures, car repairs, always vague. $8,000 here, $10,000 there. I even set up a company account for them, hoping structure would keep things manageable. Instead, it became an open wallet. Family helps family. That's what I grew up hearing, especially from my grandmother, Helen. But gratitude never came. Derek spent my money on a gaming console, not rent. Mom booked herself a luxury spa trip, calling it self-care. Dad's so-called ventures were nothing more than golf weekends disguised as business. My accountant finally called it out, $50,000 drained in 3 years. "You're enabling them," she warned. I brushed it off, clinging to the hope they would change. But they never celebrated my victories. Signing major clients, earning a reputation in Phoenix's marketing world, none of it mattered. When I was promoted to director, I waited for a call, a text, anything. Silence. Only Grandma Helen sent a card, and even that felt like an afterthought. It was Monica, my friend, who said what I was too afraid to admit. "They don't value you," she told me. Her words cut deep, and she was right. Then Dad called, his voice unusually warm. "We're throwing a dinner to celebrate your promotion," he said. "Come early, we'll honor you." My heart leapt. After years of giving, were they finally seeing me? I pictured us at the resort, raising glasses, sharing laughter, feeling like a real family. For once, I might be wanted, not used. But doubt crept in. Dad's tone carried the same smooth, practiced cadence he used for loan requests. Derek had been texting about my bonus, fishing for numbers. Mom casually mentioned the new car she needed. Even Grandma Helen hinted about her phone bill, her voice soft, yet expectant. Monica's warning echoed louder. "They're playing you." I shoved it aside, clinging to hope. But the company account betrayed the truth. Recent withdrawals, $2,000 for Derek's emergency, and $4,000 for Mom's medical costs. No receipts, no explanations, just more of the same. My money. Spent without a second thought. I felt foolish for letting it continue. Monica urged me to set limits, but I kept believing they would change. Still, that dinner felt like a turning point. Maybe they'd surprise me and show they cared. Or maybe Monica was right, and it was another setup. As I prepared for the evening, my stomach twisted with dread. Years of funding their lives had bought me nothing but silence and excuses. Driving to the resort, I braced myself. Whatever they had planned, I wouldn't be their doormat anymore. Tonight would change everything. The Phoenix Resort shimmered under crystal chandeliers, the ballroom alive with clinking glasses and my dad's colleagues' chatter. I slipped into my favorite black dress, telling myself this night would finally be about me. My promotion to director deserved a celebration, didn't it? As I stepped through the entrance, a waiter handed me a name tag. I glanced down, and my chest tightened. It read, "Limited guest." I scanned the room. My mom, Carol, stood near the head table, her laughter ringing out as she charmed a guest. My brother Derek leaned against the bar, sipping a drink, his eyes sliding toward me with a smirk. My dad, James, was nearby, shaking hands, his expression neutral, almost as if he hadn't noticed me arrive. I pinned the tag to my dress, my fingers trembling. Limited guest. At my own celebration. Derek strolled over, his voice low and mocking. "No food for you," he whispered, nodding toward the tag. "Just drinks." Mom turned, caught my eye, and erupted into a loud cackle, covering her mouth as though it were the funniest thing in the world. Guests nearby looked over. Some chuckled, others frowned in confusion. Dad didn't even glance up, too busy networking. My face burned. This wasn't a celebration. It was a setup. They hadn't invited me to honor me. They had invited me to humiliate me, to remind me I was only their wallet. I slipped into a chair at the edge of the table, my heart pounding. The room felt smaller, the laughter sharper, each sound cutting into me. Pulling out my phone, I texted Monica. "They gave me a limited guest tag. No food, I'm done." Her reply was instant. "Shut down the account, now." She had been warning me for months about their greed, how they lived off my company funds. I had hesitated before, but not tonight. Opening the banking app, I steadied my hands against the chaos in my chest. The company account, my account, the one they had been draining for years, was still linked to their names. Rent. Medical bills. Dad's golf weekends. All of it. I scrolled to the admin settings. One tap, and I could lock them out. My thumb hovered over the button. Mom laughed again, pointing at my tag as she whispered to a guest. Derek raised his glass, his grin sharp and taunting. Dad finally glanced my way, his eyes cold as if I were nothing more than an afterthought. I pressed deactivate. A confirmation flashed. Account access terminated for all secondary users. I hit confirm. My face remained calm, almost expressionless. A server set down appetizers at the table, but I didn't touch them. I sipped my water instead, eyes steady on the room. They had no idea what I'd just done. Minutes slipped by. 10, maybe 15. Derek's phone buzzed first. He frowned, swiping at the screen. Then Mom's phone lit up. Her laughter froze mid-sound, replaced by a sharp intake of breath. She tapped Dad's arm, shoving her screen toward him. Their faces stiffened, eyes snapping in my direction. I didn't look up. My gaze stayed fixed on my glass. The account they had drained for years was gone. No more free rides. Dad moved toward me, his voice low and edged. "What's this about, Natalie?" he asked, holding up his phone. I shrugged, my tone flat. "Check your notifications." His jaw clenched, but I didn't flinch. Mom followed, her practiced smile erased, replaced with a scowl. "You're being dramatic," she hissed. Derek joined them, louder, angrier. You can't just cut us off like that. I rose slowly, smoothing the fabric of my dress. Thanks for the drinks, I said coolly, turning toward the exit. Their voices rose behind me, but I kept walking. The ballroom's glow felt distant now, like a stage I no longer belonged to. What came next would hit them harder. Moments later, the ripple spread, phones lighting up with the same devastating notification. The buzz of the ballroom dimmed as guests turned curious eyes on us. My family's stares burned across the room. Dad stepped forward first, voice tight but controlled. "Natalie, explain this," he demanded, waving his phone. I leaned back slightly, my voice calm, almost detached. "You saw the email?" Mom shoved past him, her eyes blazing. "This is absurd," she snapped. "You can't just shut us out." Gasps and whispers stirred among nearby guests. Derek's mask cracked, panic bleeding through. "I've got debts, Natalie," he shouted, his voice breaking. "Debts I can't cover without that money." His hands trembled, betraying his bravado. I tilted my head, my tone steady, almost gentle. "You shouldn't have counted on me forever." His face reddened, shame flickering behind his anger. For a split second, guilt flashed in his eyes. Maybe he'd been hiding something deeper. I didn't ask. Mom's voice rose, her anger spilling over. "You're ungrateful," she snapped, pointing a finger at me. "After all we've done." I arched an eyebrow, the irony almost laughable. All they'd done was take my money, my trust, my patience. Dad stepped closer, his tone cutting. "Undo it, Natalie, now." I stood tall, brushing off my dress, my heart steady despite their glares. "Thanks for the drinks," I said, smooth, almost polite. Then I turned and walked out, my heels striking the polished floor in sharp echoes. Behind me, their voices tangled. Mom's accusations, Derek's protests, Dad's commands. But they grew fainter with every step. Outside, the warm Phoenix night wrapped around me. The resort lights dwindled as I reached my car. They had built their lives on my dime. Now they'd have to live without it. I started the engine, the low hum grounding me. For the first time, I felt unburdened. But they weren't done with me yet. 3 days later, they appeared at my doorstep. My small Phoenix apartment, usually my sanctuary, felt instantly crowded the moment Dad, Mom, and Derek pushed inside. Their faces were pinched with anger, their voices sharp before I could even offer them a seat. I stood firm in the living room, arms crossed, bracing for the storm. Dad began, pacing near the couch, his voice heavy with reproach. "You've gone too far, Natalie, cutting us off like that." "At my own celebration," I shot back, unflinching. "You invited me to humiliate me. I just returned the favor." Mom jumped in, eyes blazing. "You're blowing this out of proportion," she snapped, her hands slicing the air. "We were joking with that tag. You didn't have to ruin everything." I shook my head, her words falling flat. Joking. Their laughter at the resort hadn't been a joke. It had been a blade. Derek leaned against the wall, his bravado stripped away. His voice was low, shaking. "You've screwed me over," he muttered. "I needed that account." I tilted my head, curious. "Needed it for what, Derek?" I asked. "The $5,000 I sent for your rent? Or the extra you pulled without asking?" His eyes darted away and I pressed harder. "I covered Mom's medical bills, $3,000 for her surgery, Dad's car repairs, vacations, all of it." "What did you do with the rest?" He shifted, his jaw tight. "It's not like that," he muttered, his voice cracking. I stepped closer, my patience thinning. "Then what was it?" Dad cut in, sharp and defensive. "Stop interrogating him, Natalie. We're family." I laughed, short and bitter. "Family doesn't treat me like an ATM." Mom's face twisted. "You've always been dramatic," she shot back, arms crossing. "We raised you, gave you everything. You owe us." I stared, stunned by her audacity. Owe you? My voice rose, anger boiling. I paid your bills, Mom. I kept Derek's apartment. I funded Dad's dreams. I gave you $50,000 over 3 years. And what did I get? A limited guest tag and your laughter. Derek's head snapped up, panic flickering in his eyes. It wasn't just rent, he blurted, his tone desperate. I used some of the money for investments, stocks, crypto, stuff like that. My stomach dropped, not from surprise, but fury. You took my company's money for your gambles? I asked, my voice low and dangerous. He nodded, avoiding my gaze. I thought I'd make it back, pay you back. My fists clenched, my pulse hammering. All those years I thought he was struggling. Instead, he was scheming. You lied to me, I said, each word sharp. You all did. Mom opened her mouth, but I cut her off. No more, I snapped, my voice iron. No more money, no more favors, no more excuses. Dad's face darkened, his tone icy. You'll regret this. We're your family. I walked to the door, holding it open. Family respects each other, I said evenly. You never did. They hesitated, their anger wavering into unease. Derek muttered something under his breath, but I didn't bother to listen. Mom glared, her steps faltering. Dad walked out last, his silence heavier than his threats. I closed the door, the lock clicking with finality. Their betrayal wasn't new, but their lies had never been clearer. Weeks passed. The silence from my family felt less like peace, and more like a trap. One afternoon, I was at my desk in Phoenix, drafting a new campaign for my agency, when my phone buzzed. A Facebook notification lit the screen. Derek had posted, his words sharp and public. Some people get a little success and turn selfish. Ungrateful. My stomach twisted. He'd tagged me, making sure everyone saw. I scrolled through the comments, each one slicing deeper. Mom had shared Derek's post, adding a crying emoji with the caption, "So disappointed." Dad chimed in beneath it. "Never thought my own daughter would betray us." My hands shook as I read the public attack. Somehow, this cut harder than their words at my apartment. Friends, neighbors, even distant cousins joined in, liking, commenting, piling on with their own jabs. My name, my reputation, dragged through their lies for everyone to see. I switched over to X, formerly Twitter. It was worse. Derek had posted again, calling me a greedy sellout who abandoned family. Mom had retweeted it, her bio still boasting about being a proud mom, the irony bitter enough to choke on. Dad hadn't posted himself, but his likes on Derek's tweets told the story. Together, they were painting me as the villain, twisting everything to mask their greed. I leaned back in my chair, heart racing, vision blurring as anger tangled with hurt. That's when my phone rang. It was Monica, my friend who'd seen through them from the start. Her voice was urgent. "Natalie, check your email. A client tipped me off. Derek's been talking to your competitor." My pulse spiked. I opened my inbox. An email from a colleague confirmed the worst. Derek had reached out to a rival agency, dangling pieces of my upcoming project, a campaign I'd spent months developing. Client lists, strategies, confidential details. He'd tried to sell me out, sabotage everything I'd built. I felt sick, but not surprised. Derek's confession at my apartment, using my money for investments, had shown who he was. This was just bolder, uglier. I logged into my agency's server, fingers flying as I changed every password, locked down access, secured files. Years of late nights, sacrifice, ambition, tied to that campaign. I wasn't going to let him take it. Monica stayed on the line, her voice steady, grounding me. "You need to protect yourself, Natalie. Legally." I nodded, though she couldn't see me. "I know," I said tightly. Then I called a lawyer I'd worked with on contracts, laying it all out. Derek's smear posts, the sabotage attempt, the betrayal. Her response was blunt. This could be defamation and a breach of confidentiality. Start documenting. I spent hours screenshotting their posts, saving emails, building a case. It felt like gearing up for a war I never wanted to fight. By evening, my inbox was drowning in messages from colleagues and clients, some asking if the rumors were true, others just hungry for gossip. I drafted a short statement for my agency's social media. My focus remains on delivering great work for my clients. Thank you for your support. Neutral, professional, safe. But inside, I was seething. They had already taken my money, my trust, and now they were clawing at my reputation. I stared at Derek's latest post, his words hitting like a punch. She thinks she's too good for us. I wanted to reply, to list every dollar I'd given them, every lie they'd told, every sacrifice I'd made. But I didn't. I closed the app instead, my resolve hardening. They wanted a fight. Fine. But I'd fight smarter. Through my work, my success, and, if needed, the law. Their betrayal was public now, but it wouldn't break me. Still, I knew they'd try one last time. We agreed to meet at a small diner in Phoenix. Chip tables. The smell of fried onions hanging in the air. No chandeliers. No pretense. Just a place to end this. I arrived early and slid into a corner booth, nursing a coffee that had already gone cold by the time they showed. Dad, Mom, Derek, and my grandmother, Helen, who had insisted on coming. Their faces were a mix of determination and unease, as if they couldn't decide whether this was a peace talk or an ambush. Dad slid into the booth first, his posture stiff, his voice pitched low, like he was offering a business deal. "We need to talk, Natalie." I leaned back, my expression unreadable. "I'm here," I said, taking another sip of coffee. Mom spoke next, her tone softer than it had been at my apartment. "We can move past this," she said, her hands clasped tight. "Your family. We don't want to lose you." Her words sounded rehearsed, as though she'd practiced them in front of a mirror, each note carefully shaped to sound sincere. I set my cup down, meeting her eyes. "You didn't care about family when you shared Derek's posts," I said. Her face flushed crimson, but she didn't answer. Derek leaned forward, his voice sharp. "You're making us look bad," he snapped, his eyes narrowing. "You cut us off, and now everyone thinks we're the problem." I tilted my head, almost amused. "You called me selfish on Facebook," I said evenly. "You tried to sabotage my business. Who's making who look bad?" He shifted, his jaw tight, but didn't deny it. Grandma Helen, who had been silent until then, reached across the table and took my hand. Her fingers were warm, trembling slightly. "Natalie," she said, her voice soft but steady. "Family is about forgiveness. We've made mistakes, but we're here to fix this. Don't throw away what matters." Her eyes, lined with years of living, held a plea I hadn't expected. For a moment, I wavered. Her words tugged at something deep in me. But then the memories came rushing back. The limited guest tag at the resort, the $50,000 drained over 3 years, Derek's lies about his investments, their public posts branding me ungrateful, greedy, a sellout. Grandma hadn't seen most of it. She'd only heard their version, twisted, incomplete. I pulled my hand free, my voice firm. "Family doesn't use each other. You treated me like a bank. Not a daughter, not a sister." Dad's face hardened, his tone sharp. "You're being stubborn. We raised you, gave you everything." I let out a cold, humorless laugh. "You raised me to pay your bills. I'm done being your safety net." Mom's eyes widened, her voice climbing. "You can't just walk away from us," she shouted. "We're your blood." I stood, slipping $20 from my wallet and placing it on the table, enough to cover my coffee and a tip. My voice was calm, final. "This is the last thing I'm paying for. You've taken enough." Derek opened his mouth to speak, but one look from me silenced him. Grandma's eyes brimmed with tears, but I couldn't stay for her sake. Not anymore. I walked out, the diner's bell jingling as the door swung shut behind me. Outside, the evening air was warm, the Phoenix skyline glowing faintly against the horizon. They had tried one last time to pull me back. But I was free now. Free of their weight, their lies, their demands. I would build my own future. Mine alone. Months later, I found peace in routine. My Phoenix apartment, once a battlefield of confrontations and phone calls, was now a quiet space where I could breathe, think, and create. My advertising agency thrived. The campaign I had fought so hard to protect was winning clients one after another. Mornings were spent sketching ideas, evenings with partners and collaborators. My life, at last, belonged entirely to me. News of my family reached me in whispers, passed through old friends and mutual contacts, the kind of stories that travel without invitation. Derek had lost his job. The debts he had hidden behind my money had finally caught up to him. Too many missed days, too many failed investments. He was let go. When I heard, I felt a pang. Not guilt, but recognition. Proof that walking away had been the right choice. Mom and Dad faced their own reckoning. Without my support, they lost the house. They moved into a small rental, their lifestyle shrinking to match their means. I didn't take joy in their struggle, but I didn't ache for them either. They had built their lives on my back, and now they were learning how to walk without it. One evening, a message arrived from Grandma Helen. Her words were careful, almost fragile. "I'm sorry, Natalie. I didn't see how much they took from you." I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the reply button. Her voice at the diner echoed in my mind, pleading for forgiveness, for family. But forgiveness wasn't something I could force. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I set the phone down, and in that moment, silence became a choice I had earned. Through it all, Monica became my anchor. Weekly coffee meetings, shared laughter, a steady reminder of what genuine support feels like. She had stood by me through the smears, the betrayals, the desperate fight to protect my work. "You're stronger for it," she told me once, her eyes bright. And for the first time, I believed her. Looking back, I saw the full cost of their greed. They had taken $50,000, my trust, my time. They had mocked me, lied about me, tried to ruin me. But I had rebuilt stronger, my boundaries unshakable. I had learned to say no, to choose myself, to live without apology. It hadn't been easy. Cutting ties hurts, even when it's the right thing. But it was necessary. One evening, I stood in my office, the Phoenix skyline glowing beyond the glass. My desk was scattered with sketches, contracts, and plans for the future. This was my life now, built on my terms, free of their shadow. I had lost a family, but I had gained myself, and that was enough.